Good to go? Okay. Time is now 5:30 p.m. We're going to go ahead and get started and call this Southwest Deltona Community Redevelopment Agency meeting to order. If I can please have the city clerk call the roll.
Commissioner Avila-Vasquez?
Present.
Commissioner Caldwell?
Here.
Commissioner Howington?
Point of order. We're not using commissioner.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Every time.
It's fine. No worries. For the record, let's just start again.
Yep. Member Avila-Vasquez?
Still here?
Member Caldwell?
Still with her.
Member Howington?
Here.
Member Lilly?
Present via Teams.
Member Santiago? Member Harriet?
Present.
Member Avila?
Here. This time, we're going to go ahead and go with public forum. No? All right. Action item, request for approval, resolution number 2025-61, requesting board consideration and approval of matching grant proposal, which could potentially benefit businesses with CRA boundaries. And because this is a little different than what we regularly do, we're going to go ahead and go directly to Mr. John Cox for his presentation. Your microphone's off. If you push, there you go now.
Mr. Chairman, members of the CRA board, I'm John Cox, your CRA director. Good evening. I had the opportunity to send you a proposal with respect to creating a grant for commercial entities within the boundaries of the CRA. The Florida statutes allows CRAs to offer these types of grants to businesses, in particular to eliminate blight and slum-like conditions throughout the district. So as we have been working in our DRC and there are businesses who are actually renovating or coming to the CRA, in those meetings I've said, I need to let you know that because you're in the CRA, there may be something to your benefit in the form of a grant. Well, when I drilled down, I discovered that we haven't had a grant program. We've not issued a grant through the CRA. So I'm requesting that as many communities throughout the state of Florida do, we offer a grant to businesses that can help them in a number of ways. For example, maybe they have a paving issue, painting issue, landscaping. It could be a facade grant. Anything that will improve the look of the business. How are these grants funded? They're funded by the CRA Trust Fund. So each year, communities that offer grants just allocate part of their trust fund for these grants. They're also matching grants, which means that the proposal that you have had that is before you tonight is a grant that is a matching grant in the 50%. So if the project is a $10,000 grant, the city would match it at 50%, which would be $5,000 in each of these different areas. Now, painting is a little bit different. That only goes to $5,000. But it is a simple process. It's one that can benefit businesses in the CRA, and so recommend it to you based on the information that you've received.
I'm going to go to Commissioner Avila-Vasquez first, then Vice Mayor Harriet, because the majority of the CRA is in your district. Commissioner Avila-Vasquez, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So for the grants, is it per business? Will you be offering this to every single business, or is it for the whole entire CRA section?
It's it's businesses within the CRA boundaries. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Each business?
That's correct.
So I think it's 12 restaurants on Deltona Boulevard. So each restaurant will be able, well, not restaurants, but food,
Sure.
Businesses that sell food or whatever.
Yes, ma'am. If they're in the district, they qualify in the CRA for matching grant. For example, one of them may have a sign that has been broken or vandalized. They can apply for a sign grant, and we can partner with them and see a new sign put up.
And we will be responsible for the 50%.
That's correct. The CRA Trust Fund, that's where the funds come from. So it doesn't come from the city's general fund. The funds are already available.
What about things that the city has to implement on the city side? Are we also able to apply for these grants and on a 50-50? Or is it just for businesses?
It would be just for businesses, that's correct.
Okay. Okay, have you done a sweep of areas that you think might be candidates? Because
Well,
I know I have.
Deltona Boulevard might be a good place to start. In fact, we've looked at the plaza there, 1200 Deltona. We've talked with the owner and his leasing agents. In fact, they're one of the businesses that we told probably 2 months ago in the DRC meeting that we are in the process of potentially establishing a grant that could benefit your business. So yes, we've looked.
Good, thank you, because there are other plazas that really need, some TLC. But thank you, I like this idea. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the questions. Sir?
Member Harriet?
Director Cox, do you know, ballpark off the top of your head, the annual amount earned by the CRA? Or does anybody?
So it's going to be $1 million plus. Our balance today is about $2 million.
Okay. What would would this program run in perpetuity until the funds ran out?
That would be up to the board. And keep in mind, and great question, thank you, that the CRA expires in 2036, so just 10 more
Okay.
years.
Perfect. And then have we looked at, and I know that you guys have done a lot of research on this, but are there any examples of CRAs where the cost share is increased on the support side so that the city would cover maybe 75% or 60%, would cover more than 50?
So there are not Florida statutes that regulate what the percentage is, so the CRA board could establish whatever percentages they want. I thought since we're instituting it for the very first time, this might be a good barometer of how effective it could be. There are some cities that offer grant programs, but nobody applies for the grant. So I thought, well, let's see if people will apply. And
Yeah, I know that Commissioner Vila Vasquez has brought this up. Member Vila Vasquez has brought this up many times. Really championed improvements within the CRA. So I think I'd like to look at doing anything we can to help out the business partners within the CRA. So what I mean by all that is, if we have an opportunity to help with more than 50% of the funding, and it sounds like we have a $2 million available balance, so that's, if we're talking 20 businesses, we can give each of the 20 businesses the maximum amount and still have plenty, of funds available. The other thing that I'd like to ask if we've considered is kind of like a streetscaping program in that area as well, to member of Vila Vasquez's point, improve the city infrastructure, not specifically sewer, but the sidewalks, the street lights, the curbing, signage, all that kind of stuff.
yes, good question. I've reviewed all the enabling ordinances that establish the CRA. I've read the plans, and there are many places throughout the plans that talk about streetscaping, linear parks, on and on and on. That's the bigger work of the CRA. Now, your CRA decided in the very beginning that it wanted to accumulate a large amount of money before it undertook projects. It also decided that it wanted to pay as it goes. So both of those things probably have prevented you from doing significant work in your community on those two areas. There's going to be a point at which, as an example, you're 9 years old and you've spent less than $150,000. And that's because you want to pay as you go and you want to accumulate a larger fund balance so that you can do bigger projects. But those ideas are great ideas, and it's certainly part of what a CRA does. It's just not part of the grant proposal.
And thank you for pointing that out at the end. These questions are a little bit outside of the grant proposal. They're a little bit the CRA larger picture. What would this board need to change policy in order to leverage the funding opportunities of the CRA to complete those larger projects.
Well, thank you for the question, and I have thought about that. But again, you only have 10 years left. You've only got $2 million in the bank, and significant community change projects take a lot of money. So, you know, I know your fondness for work sessions. Might pay us to have a work session of the CRA board at some time to discuss how we want to move through these next 10 years.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr.
And-
Chair.
Mr. Chair, if I may, just to piggyback off of Mr. Cox's point, there is nothing in your current plan that would preclude you from issuing debt or issuing bonds if that's the will of the board. However, you may also want to consider an extension or expansion of the CRA if you're looking to make more long-term investments or increase your TIF by bringing in additional areas that may be eligible to be incorporated into the CRA.
Thank you.
Member Colwell, then I'll go, and then we'll go to Member Avila Vasquez the second time.
Thank you. On the grant program, are we limited to one grant, or can they apply for multiple?
So 1 grant per year per property.
Okay, thank you.
And if you got a signed grant this year, we wouldn't expect you back for 5 more years to get another signed grant.
Right.
So I got 3 questions. One, piggybacking off of Member Caldwell, 1200 Deltona Boulevard has multiple businesses on that property. Are each of them eligible for a grant?
Yes, in fact, there's a line in the application, which is the bulk of paperwork that you have, for the owner to sign and the tenant or the applicant. So yeah, you could have 10 businesses along the front of that, and working with the owner of the plaza, they could improve the facade along those 10 businesses, which would be excellent.
Would that also include the possibility of, let's say, at the Deltona Boulevard Plaza, or even there's another plaza a little bit further down with where Bagel King's at, they want to do like an out parcel. Would that also apply for them to, let's say they want to build an out parcel, and they would like to grant for $10,000? I mean, it's a drop in the bucket, but.
So the issue on an out parcel is, generally speaking, there's nothing there. So
Okay.
there's nothing to improve.
Got it. Last question, I guess, is would any septic to sewer or sewer expansion be allowed to be considered for any of those grants?
So, of course,
And
I
let me
would,
just use an example.
Thank you.
Cigar Hustler has been wanting sewer to come to their area for I don't know how long. Every time I see them, they tell me if they put in whatever request for a grant, I know $10,000 is not going to go anywhere to get them that sewer connection. But would that sewer connection, could they apply those $10,000 or a grant to help bring that sewer line over?
thank you for the question. Of course, I would have to rely on counsel from our esteemed legal charter officers because the Deltona CRA is very restrictive,
Okay.
especially in the area of water and sewer and septic. So I wouldn't think so, but of course I would rely on legal for assistance.
Mr. Chair, we'll review the CRA plan to give you an answer, and we can tell Mr. Cox, Director Cox, and he can transmit it to you all, or we can send it to you all. But I will say this, the city manager made an excellent suggestion that for a case like that, let's say the business comes to the CRA, they apply for a grant to improve something that is under the eligible expenses already outlined. The city could offer a grant that has no restrictions to them for that conversion. And then the upside of doing something like that is we're already then in privity of contract with them. We've ensured that there's insurance and they've met all the other requirements to be part of this grant program. They're not just willy-nilly doing construction in their business. So that could be an opportunity to have, in that case, they would come before you all as the CRA for their CRA grant, And then we could put a companion item on the city meeting that same day or the next meeting for that portion. So if the city wanted to contribute, there would be no restriction on city funds.
Thank you. Member Avila Vasquez and then Member Harriet.
Thank you, Mayor. So, I mean, I'm just going to say that from my knowledge, sewer cannot be included with the CRA funds. It's supposed to be for beautification. It's what I was told at one time. Does this grant, can it also be used for inside these businesses? It has to be only visible outside?
Thank you. No, it's exterior only.
Exterior only. You know where I'm getting at.
Yes.
Harry's,
Yes.
the restaurant.
Been there.
Right. So just to, let you guys into this, we had a conversation about the hotel that we have on Deltona Boulevard. And believe it or not, when I speak about this, some people say, we have a hotel on Deltona Boulevard? Yes, it's across the street from McDonald's. And they had a restaurant called Harry's. And this restaurant was a sit-down restaurant where family used to go eat. And it was a line from the registration table all the way out. That was my favorite restaurant when I moved here 25 years ago. So something like this, and I know the place is still there, but the restaurant is not. So I don't know. I think you said you did reach out to them
I
and they
did.
never got back to you.
That's correct.
I mean, and it's under Wyndham. I don't understand why they won't even want to do something like that, but I don't think we should give up on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Member Harriet, and then we'll entertain, you need a motion, right? Yeah.
Yep. The only thing I have to say is that I'd love to see a motion include the ability for businesses to receive multiple grants per year, so that a business can receive a grant for signage and for, facade within the same year. That way they can actually achieve the completion, some real significant beautification while they're undertaking a project. So that's the only thing I'd like to see it. I think it'd be appropriate if,
Member Avila Vasquez, since it's in your district, would you like to make that motion?
Just a question before I make the motion. Is that allowed?
Well, as the board, you can allow anything.
So this, from the grant requirements and rules of the grant, is that
We-
allowed? As far as the grant is,
We would have to modify some language. As I said a moment ago, one grant per property per year. That's what the language of this grant says. You're the board and you can change it.
okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may, it is certainly legal. It is permissible. We would need to modify the grant, but if you give direction, we could affect your intent and make it so that a grantee could get a sign grant every 5 years and a facade grant that same year, and presumably every year, if they would like. You also can increase the percent. It's always best practice for the business to put some skin in the game, but you could fund it 90 or 95% and just, they have to contribute a portion, so they have some skin in the game. But I will say some of the businesses that we have seen in other CRAs that have had the most success come back every year, right? So one year they'll, put a brick facade on their building, and then the next year they'll upgrade their windows, and the next year they'll do a new door. So, and by the end, the businesses look beautiful. So these types of programs certainly are effective, but you can cut it, slice it up however you want. You could fund 100%, you could fund 90%, 95%, or keep it 50-50, whatever you all want to do. You have a ton of latitude.
And one more question before I make the motion. I always say there is probably 70% businesses on Deltona Boulevard, and the other 30% is residential. They don't qualify for these grants, residentials?
This grant is written for commercial businesses.
Commercial business.
Correct. I
Just-
think that's a fair place to start. You can be literally out of money in a hurry if you're not careful.
Okay.
And the good changes you made or you want to make, that's awesome. You may want to also then up the amount from 100,000 to the grant program shall not exceed 200,000. Your choice.
Okay, I just wanted that answer because, they'll be reaching out to us, residential homes about this grant. So it's
That's
very
why-
clear now that it's just for commercial.
That's correct.
Okay, so I move to approve resolution number 2025-61, adopting the proposed grant program for the Southwest Deltona Community Redevelopment Agency located within the city of Deltona, up to $200,000 grant, in addition to what Board Member Davison mentioned in our legal department.
Multiple grants.
Sign and facade in the same year is permitted.
Yeah, multiple grants per year.
I always look at our clerk to see her reactions.
Multiple grants as in
Got it?
more than one per year, or a sign and a facade in the same year?
Multiple, more than one per year.
Multiple,
And you could have
multiple categories.
painting,
multiple
paving, landscaping.
Yeah, so that they could do a facade and a sign, or a sign and a painting. They could landscaping and facade, thank you. The Oz.
You got this, right?
As an example,
Mic is on. Yeah. If the light's not green, it's off.
As an example, if you do a landscaping grant and they put in $5,000 worth of landscaping, and it's a terribly cold or terribly hot or terribly adverse environment for that landscaping and it dies, can they come back and get another $5,000 for another landscaping grant? That's one of the things, the same kind of thing with painting. If they don't paint it right in the first place, that's going to be a problem. And we can figure these things out as we go if you like.
Mr. Chair, if I may, we would recommend that, with respect to that, that staff have to approve the work before the applicant receives their final payment. So for example, if you're going to put in landscaping, you have to put in irrigation, right?
Correct,
And the
that's
landscaping has to be in compliance with the rest of our city code. If you're going to paint, you have to meet our architectural design guidelines. If you're going to put in paving, it has to, again, meet all of our code. So we would recommend that be included in this program. To your point, though, I understand multiple grants a year if it's 50-50. That's reasonable, because then they're putting 50% of the money in. You could also, or instead, just they get one grant a year for a larger amount. So they don't have to do this and come to you multiple times. They could come back and, so I'll just put that on the table. That's an option as well. They could, instead of,
Well, I guess
if you're conceiving of multiple grants.
you will come up with what would be required of them before it gets approved, right? Just like when we approve fixing a home and stuff like that, under the SHIP and the housing requirements.
So
we'll
yes,
approve
the
fixing.
answer is yes. This grant does not anticipate coming back before the board every time somebody applies for a grant. It's all done at the staff level with a sign-off by the city manager.
As long as all the requirements. are met.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to go to, so there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Before I go to additional,
Second.
second by Member Harriet. Member Lully, do you want to say something? Because I know I haven't asked you, and I wanted to give you an opportunity.
No, I'm good at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Member Caldwell, you were on the board earlier, and then you came off. And then we'll go to Member Howington.
Some of the questions were answered. My question is on the 200,000, is that a limit, an annual limit?
If you establish a limit, it needs to be annual.
Okay,
And you should establish a limit.
that's where I was going with that. Thank you. 'Cause without all those businesses, we could run out of funds within 11 years real quick.
Absolutely.
Member Howington?
I would like to see the motion amended to maybe one per category per year. That might be a way to prevent them from coming back for multiple for the same category within a year.
I'm good with that.
That was the intent. Yeah, sorry, that was the
Just for
intent.
clarification.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
City Clerk, did you want me to have them do the motion again?
No, please.
She's saying no herself, so. Okay.
And
All
Mr.
right.
Chairman, quickly before you vote, I just want to show you this little PowerPoint. It's been mailed
We
to
have
you.
literally, we have no time. They need 5 minutes.
I withdraw my suggestion.
Okay. All right. Can you please, sorry. And then before you release Member Lully, would you please tell us how you would like to vote before they release the final tally?
Yes.
Okay. It passes 7-0.
John, I could tell you that Jerry Mays is a very happy person right now.
All right.
Thank you.
So this CRA, if there's no other comments, the CRA meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.